Last night, my mobile phone repeatedly lit up with messages flying in from across the world as the news from Israel reached an international audience. I'm sure there are quite a few of us here who were glued to the news, trying to assuage our anxiety by reading every article, as if knowing the ins and outs would help us navigate this next period of uncertainty. This is most likely futile. Unlike the prophets who were given visions by God, none of us can truly know what will happen next. We are like the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, as they left Egypt for life in the unknown. We cannot know how long it will be until we see peace reign again. Yet just as our ancestors before us could not wait until they reached the promised land before they built a place to gather, we too must remember that the work of building God's abode must take place now. In fact, for the last 3 generations, the task has never been more urgent. In the book of Exodus, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, is described in quite prescriptive fashion. This many cubits wide, this many cubits high, with an altar and a curtain, and so on. It's quite clear that the physical space was critical. But why? The Israelites were a wandering group in the desert. Though they periodically had interactions with outsiders, the vast majority of their time would have been spent mixing with other Israelites. In all likelihood, Israelites of their own tribes. This Mishkan, then, must offer something unique, something that would happen within its walls that may not be happening outside of it. Indeed, that appears to be God's reasoning. Va'asuli migdash v'shachanti b'tocham. Let them make for me a sacred abode, a mishkan, that I may dwell within them. Within them, and not within it. God does not live between the walls of a specific place. God exists between people, and wherever the people are, the essence of the divine can be found. An example of this took place just a few months ago on a beautiful summery Sunday in August. A small group of West London synagogue women stood on a corner in High Barnet with a bag full of little cakes and copies of exquisitely composed poetry. They came from across the city to be introduced to a man who shared their love of poetry. Over the next few hours, some truly beautiful, inspiring, mournful, and profound verses were shared in the home of our warm and most welcoming host. At the end of the afternoon, everyone went their separate ways, knowing that it would not be their last meeting. A true kesher, a connection, had been formed. It didn't matter that the age gap between the participants and the host was more than 60 years. This was not necessarily the expected result. The initial aim of the meeting had been to perform a mitzvah, that of kibud zakenim, honoring our elders. But as the saying goes, mitzvah goreret mitzvah. One mitzvah follows another, and soon one small good deed transformed into something else. Not only did our visit provide good company for a member of the community unable to make journeys outside his home, through his poetry, most importantly, his teaching, his Torah, the younger people in his company experienced a broadening of their appreciation of the world. It's reminiscent of the experience of Jacob who on a journey from Beersheba to Haran paused for a night of rest. Unexpectedly, Jacob experienced God that night in the form of a vision of a ladder stretched up to heaven with angels climbing up and down. "Surely God is in this place," Jacob exclaims as he awakens, "and I did not know it." We'd gathered to perform a mitzvah, but the energy of an encounter with something even greater awaited our arrival. Perhaps it shouldn't have been a surprise. Our human need to be with others stretches back as far as the Garden of Eden, when God saw that it was not right that Adam be alone. Since that very first act of creation, humanity has sought the company and the companionship of others, knowing that life is made meaningful through our relationships with others. It's why friendship, companionship, and community are seen as sacred. The impact of one individual on another can change the entire course of a person's life, as a story from the Talmud relates. A highway robber caught a glimpse of what he thought was a beautiful woman bathing in the Jordan River. Rushing to woo her, he leapt into the water only to discover that the beautiful stranger was a man, a rabbi, no less, who convinced the robber to give up his immoral ways and become a Torah scholar. Their friendship had at its foundation a mutual desire over time to see their companion flourish. It is a beautiful Jewish story carried through the centuries, and it has a critical message for us today, especially at these uncertain times. The robber who jumped in the river didn't expect to have his life changed, nor did the rabbi anticipate that a simple bath would lead him to his most steadfast companion. We may not appreciate how much of a difference we can make in each other's lives. Rashi teaches that God wants us to understand this about ourselves. After the Israelites leave Egypt, there are several censuses. Commenting on this, Rashi states, because each person is precious to God, God counts them. Every individual matters. From the youngest child to the most senior amongst us, every one of us is a reflection of the divine. Each time we are counted, we are reminded how precious we are. With this gift of love, however, comes responsibility. Tomorrow morning, we will read the opening verses of Nitzavim. You stand this day, all of you, before your eternal God to enter into the covenant. This covenant is a promise between two parties, and we are being exhorted to answer the call, to rise up spiritually and take our place in the Jewish community. It is not up to me to tell you what your role will be. Only you can tell us what you can offer. But this year, at a time when so much has felt so dark, we implore you to become a part of something bigger than our individual selves. We invite you to become a part of the Mishkan, the space between people where God dwells. It is our sacred mission. Make 5785 the year when you stand up to be counted as one who is moved to build a place where God can dwell. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may it be God's will.